Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 26 of the WoolJewel podcast. I'm Caitlin, and this is my podcast where I talk about knitting and other fiber-related crafting that I'm up to. If you want to find me on social media, I am WoolJewel on Instagram and Ravelry, and we also have a Ravelry group called WoolJewel Podcast. I will list all of that in the description below. I also have a newly created Patreon where you have an opportunity to contribute to the podcast. I will link to that below, and I want to take a second and say a huge thank you to those of you who have already contributed. It means a lot to me to help me keep the podcast going. There are some fun rewards involved if you choose to do that, so if you're interested, just click the link below and you can find out more about it. So today's episode should be pretty fun. First of all, I am 30 today. This is my birthday. Well, I'm filming on my birthday, so this will probably be uploaded a day or two after that. So yeah, I have a lot of fun stuff to share. I just got back from Edinburgh Yarn Festival last week, and I have been really busy with knitting. So I have a few finished objects to show you and a couple works in progress. So before I get into that, I want to mention the knit-alongs I have going on right now. One of them is ending very soon. It's the Clean Slate knit-along. I forgot to mention it in the last episode. I am co-hosting this with Emily, who is Slow Fashion Rebel. She has a YouTube channel, and she's also Slow Fashion Rebel on Instagram. So we're co-hosting this, and this is just a knit-along to get projects that are languishing either off your needles or frogged. So decide what you want to do with these old projects. If they, if you've totally lost steam on them, a frogged project counts as an entry. So go check out the rules in the Ravelry group. For the knit-along, you have a couple more days to enter. I think I'm probably gonna draw a winner on April 1st. If I don't do it on April 1st, I'm just gonna draw a winner before the next time I film, because I generally don't remember to draw winners until I'm ready to film another episode. So I also have another knit-along going on, which is a sock knit-along, and that is the Any Sock Will Do KAL. So this is a year-long knit-along, and this is just a place to enter any of your socks that you're not entering into any other knit-alongs for whatever reason. So there's also more rules and info for that in the Ravelry group. So one more quick thing before I get into all the finished objects and projects I'm working on. I will have some footage at the end of the episode of my trip to Edinburgh with my friend Shara, and just some stuff about Edinburgh Yarn Festival at the end. I don't think I'm gonna have time today to give a huge play-by-play of every single little thing and every single person I met. So I'll just put up the footage that I have and show you what I brought home. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk finished objects. Before I show you my new finished objects, I will talk about what I'm wearing, and this is the Piece of Silver by Veera Valimaki. I knit this with La Bianime twist sock yarn. I can never remember that because it's like more of like a generic base name. It's like twist sock or something like that. The colorway is Quail, and I actually talked more about this sweater in a very recent episode. I think it was the last one, episode 25, so I'm not going to go into great detail here. I pretty much knitted exactly to pattern, except I just kind of winged it for the length on the body and the sleeves. I never really do the exact measurements, so I'm really happy with it, and it has been wearing really well. I wore it a lot to Edinburgh Yarn Festival and just around home. It's really comfortable, and I'm looking forward to wearing this more through spring because it's really lightweight. And it did not take very much yarn. I think I used, let's see, I used 2 full skeins, and then I used about 30 grams of a third skein. So yeah, pretty good on the yarn. I have a lot of extra left. I might knit a matching hat or something. Okay, so that's it for this. If you want to know more about it, like I said, go check out episode 25. The next finished object I want to show you is my Raxtur hat. I love this. This is a Stephen West pattern. It's kind of an older pattern from his earlier days, and I used, I think, like the same colors that the sample was knit in, except different yarn. So I used Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. This was my first Brooklyn Tweed project, and I really, really love the yarn. It is so soft. It's much softer after washing. And I mean, it's soft before washing, but if you're like not really sure about it, it does get even softer after you block it. So at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, this hat was a huge hit. I finished it a few days before I went, and I was really glad because I don't really have hats for myself. I haven't knit a hat for myself in years, probably. And I pretty much just had one. I've knit a couple for Ben and a few as gifts, but I don't get excited about knitting accessories for myself. Because if you know me, I just like to knit garments the most, and I don't know, that's just kind of how it's worked out. So I was like, I think it's time for a hat. And I picked up the Brooklyn Tweed when I was in Amsterdam at the Stephen and Penelope shop. And I had always wanted to try Shelter, but it's not the most affordable yarn, so I just decided to get enough for a hat so I could try it out first to see if maybe later on it would be worth getting a sweater's amount, and it totally is. So that will be coming at some point. But yeah, it was a huge hit. Everybody loved the ear flaps. I think it's super cute. Like, it's really, really lightweight, but super warm at the same time, which I think is great for a hat. And it came in one size, and usually a one size hat will be too big for me because I have kind of a small head. But for this, it's okay because if you flip up the brim, it makes it a little more fitted and also way more cute because it has like little ears. I don't know. This hat's the best. I love it. I kind of want to make another one, but in more fun colors. Yeah, so that's about it. I don't really have much to say about it. It kind of has a sad pom-pom. I made the pom-pom out of the extra Brooklyn Tweed I had of the white color. Oh, the colorways I think are Woodsmoke and Fossil. I think it's called Fossil. Oh my gosh, my hair. Ah! Anyway, you guys can deal with hat hair if I've got it. Yeah, so I used the extra Fossil for the pom-pom, and I thought since the yarn is worsted, I wouldn't have to wrap it as many times and it would just kind of fluff up, but it did not get as dense as I wanted it to be. And then I thought about making another one, but then I also thought about how I made a whole pom-pom with Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, and if I didn't use the pom-pom that I made, it would be such a waste of a really nice yarn. And I do have a ball left of the Fossil, so I didn't want to make more than one pom-pom because maybe I can use the extra for something else. So yeah, I just decided to stick with the sad pom-pom. But it's not the worst. It's okay. This is the first time I've done a completely reversible rib. And if you saw my previous episode, you'll know that I had a rough time with this pattern because there was a mistake in the cable instructions. So I accidentally like knit the whole brim without even realizing that I had done it wrong. And then it took me a while to track down what exactly the issue was with it so that I could fix it. So it just kind of sat in the corner for a long time. And so I knit the brim twice. And then after I knit the brim, I don't remember when I filmed if I had gotten to this point yet, but there is one decrease round right after the brim before you start this main part. And I was traveling and I just totally skipped over that decrease round, so I knit this top part and it was so huge. So I got pretty far into that and then I realized how huge it was, so then I frogged all of that. So I basically knit this hat 2 complete times and then some. Kind of frustrating. I spent way more time on this hat than I needed to, but it was worth it because I love it and it was a big hit. Everybody else seemed to love it. And it's a little bit of an older Stephen West pattern, and so I think not as many people know about it because I think he got really, really big kind of after all these patterns came out when he was using all these natural colors and lots of textures and stuff like that. So if you're into this kind of thing, definitely go check out some of his older patterns. I believe this is from, it might be the second Westknits pattern book, but I'm not really sure, so I'll just list it below. That's it for the Raxtur hat. So another finished object I've got is pretty exciting. I decided to knit from a sock blank for the very first time. I've had this sock blank since October. So I'll show you what's left of the blank. This is from TreLiz, and I got it at Berlin Knits. And it kind of has a fun story because I was at Berlin Knits and I was traveling alone, and I met up with Anna from the Dunkelgrun podcast, and we were shopping around, and we both really liked this sock blank, and she only had one with colors like these. So we decided that we would split it, and I would knit a pair of socks, and then I'm gonna send her the rest of the blank to knit a pair for herself. I usually need less than 50 grams, and just to be safe, I used a contrasting toe, heel, and cuff. So I'll show you the first one. They're both really different because the sock blank was just kind of like all over the place. So it started off gray and white, and then it got really, really orange. Yep, so that's the first one. I did toe up, and the toe, heel, and cuff are from a mini that Tristan from the Girls in the Yarn Cafe sent me. We did a yarn swap, and she sent the mini with another sock yarn, but I thought it would look really, really pretty with this sock blank, so I just used it for that. And I will show you the second one, and this was a sock blank that was one strand. Some of them are two-stranded where you can knit two at a time, but this one was not that way, so I had to do the socks one at a time. So it ended here. So there they are. They're really different, and I love them. I love them so much. I have not blocked them because I actually wanted to show you guys the fabric of these, because I usually am a really, really consistent knitter for stockinette in the round. But this was my first time using a sock blank, and so I wanted to show you guys like the texture that kind of happens with the sock blank, because you're knitting with kind of a kinked up yarn, so it's really uneven compared to the socks I usually knit. But the wobbliness has kind of grown on me, so I'm actually, I don't know, it just, they feel a little bit thicker, like they have more texture. So I think I'll be a little bit sad when I wash these and they're more of an actual vanilla sock after the texture goes away. But I will love them nonetheless because they're like friendship socks because we're sharing a sock blank. So I have to send this off to her, and I will be really curious to see how her socks knit up because they're probably gonna look even more different from mine. So for these socks, I haven't knit socks in a while, and I usually do the same vanilla sock recipe no matter what sock I'm doing, which I've shared several times, but it's been a long time since I've done a sock. So I will just go through what I typically do for a sock. I use Judy's Magic Cast On for the toe. I cast on 10 stitches, and then I increase to, what is it? I increased to 54 stitches around. That's my ideal stitch count on the US size 1 needles. And this is an Addy size 1. I know that other brands have a different millimeter size for their US size 1. I don't remember what the Addy one is, but that's what I use. I do 2 at a time, usually on 2 circulars, but this time I just did 1 at a time on 2 circulars. So I increased to 54 stitches, which means one side has 26 stitches and the other side has 28. And I usually put the larger stitch count, so the 28 stitches goes on the bottom of the foot. And then I do a Fish Lips Kiss heel. And sometimes it gets a little bit tight across the top of my foot, across from the heel with that type of heel, and so I just decided to experiment a little bit. So before I started the heel, on the 28 stitch side I added 1 stitch on each side to make it 30 stitches. And then I did the heel. It's just a short row heel really. And so I did the short row heel with 30 stitches instead of 28 stitches, which gave me a little bit more depth and a teeny tiny bit more width. And I think that that really, really helped the heel fit better for me. So then when I finished the heel, I just decreased on either side when I started back up with the main color. So I might do that from now on. Yeah, it really worked for me. It kind of gives the heel more of a right angle. And then I just knit whatever length I felt like. I didn't want to go too tall because I didn't want to accidentally use up more than my 50 grams of yarn. And then I did 18 rows of a 2x2 rib in a size 0, a US size 0, and that's the Addy size 0, so I don't know what the millimeter is, but like I said, so Addy needles, once you get below a US 4, the millimeter sizes are actually different than a lot of other brands, usually varying by 1/4 of a millimeter. So if you're having trouble getting gauge with suggested needle sizes, and you're only going by the US sizes, double check the millimeters, because I had trouble with a few patterns and then I realized my Addy needles, I was just looking at the US and then I went back to the pattern and realized that the millimeter suggestion was different than the US one for the needles that I had. So just check it if you're worried about it. If you're using Addies, it's gonna be different than whatever standard is out there for other needles. So yeah, I knit these really, really quickly. I thought that I've always done 2 at a time. This is the first time I've ever done 1 at a time socks, and I knit them in less than 24 hours. I always did 2 at a time before because I know myself, and I figured that if I finished 1 sock, I would never knit the second sock. And so I was like, I'm just gonna learn to do 2 at a time from the beginning and just always do that, so I always have a pair. But I didn't have the option with the sock blank. So I realized doing 1 at a time, I actually knit them much faster, which didn't really make sense to me. I don't really know why it went faster, because it was the same method, it was the same needles. It really should have taken like the same amount of time to get through 2 socks as it did doing 2 socks 2 at a time, but I mean, it's the same amount of knitting. I don't really know why it went faster, but it just did. So knowing that, I might do that from now on, but we'll see. Yeah, so I started these. We had a little brunch party for my birthday on Sunday. Today's Wednesday, the 28th, so today's my actual birthday, but on Sunday we celebrated with like a brunch at home with our friends, and some of them are knitters, so they brought their knitting and we just kind of hung out and played games and knit for a while. I got through most of the first sock while we were hanging out. So I finished it that night, and then I cast on the next one and got through the toe, and then I knit the whole rest of the sock the next day and finished in the afternoon. So fastest pair of socks ever, and I love them and I can't wait to wear them. So I'll probably just start wearing them immediately without blocking them. Okay, my last finished object for today is really, really exciting. It's really special to me. It was kind of crazy how fast I finished this. I set a new record for myself. I think my previous record for knitting a sweater was 6 days, and that was the caramel latte sweater. And that went really fast because it was on US size 9s. It was an Aran weight sweater. It didn't even have full length sleeves, and it just like went really fast and I was addicted to it. But this one, and I'll show it to you in a second, but I got some yarn at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, so this will be kind of a spoiler for the EYF stuff that I'm going to talk about at the end. But I'll show you the yarn I got for this, and I just really, I'll show you the yarn first. I'll just show you the leftovers of what I've got, because I used about half of it. But I was shopping at Edinburgh Yarn Festival and went to the Qing fiber booth. And if you guys don't know about Qing fibers, it's like the most gorgeous hand-dyed yarn. I love it so much. and she has this baby Suri alpaca fluffy yarn. So these are the colors I got, and it looks like mohair, but it's not quite. It's thicker than mohair. It's softer than mohair. It is just like so gorgeous and luxurious, and I loved it so much. And I was gonna try my best at Edinburgh to just look at everything first, kind of get a feel for what's around, and then go back through after I thought about it and buy all the stuff. But this was one of the first places we went, and I just couldn't not. I had nothing specific in mind to do with these, but I picked up this one, and this is her denim colorway. It is a gorgeous silvery gray with a little bit of light blue in there. And I just thought it was so, so pretty. And I was like, well, I can't just get one. Like, what am I gonna just do with one fluffy yarn? And since it's thicker than mohair, it actually doesn't have the greatest yardage. I don't have a label with me, so I don't know where the labels are, so I can't tell you what the yardage is now, but I will put the info on what the yarn is and everything in the description below. So I figured I couldn't just walk away with one, and so then I found this one, and this is the Siren colorway, and I thought that these would be so pretty together. And then I started looking at more things, and I found this one, and I thought that would be so pretty with it. And I was like, well, why not just get a fourth one to kind of, you know, that way I can maybe get a sweater out of them. And so I picked up this one, and I can't remember this colorway. It starts with a P, and this one is Cha-Cha. I love the just hot pink surprises in there, and there's a little bit of neon. I don't know, I love it. I thought they were so pretty and squishy and soft. I can't believe I didn't even use all of these in my sweater, but so I thought I would make some kind of garment, and I think the 4 of them put together was 700 something yards, which is not enough by themselves to make a sweater. So I decided to hold it double with a fingering weight just to get more yardage out of it. And I was thinking about sweaters. Sorry, everybody's texting me. Okay, so I was looking through my Ravelry library at sweater patterns I already had, and I remembered that I have the Hofsos sweater pattern, which is a Stephen West, an older Stephen West pattern, and it is for 2 fingering weight yarns held double. And like I said, it was kind of from the days when all his stuff looked like this. So more texture and woolly yarns and natural colors. So I decided to kind of blend the old Stephen West with the new Stephen West and do a crazy marled Hofsos with my fuzzy yarn. And I wanted the whole thing to be really fuzzy. So I decided to stripe regular mohairs when I wasn't using the baby Suri stuff. So here it is. After all that talk, I'll show it to you now. So you can see the denim is near the bottom, and then Cha-Cha in the middle, and then I used that lighter one I can't remember the name of right here at the top, and the Siren is on the neck. This sweater is amazing. It's so, so soft and cuddly and awesome. I'll talk about what I did on the front in a second. I really, really, really love this huge turtleneck. And I love the construction too, because you just knit a flat rectangle that's really wide, and then you seam the ends together. So this is it. So it's really knit side to side, and then you seam the ends together so that you can kind of fold it over and wear it like that. And I like it because it has all these different panels of different types of texture in there. I did not do a gauge swatch, So I just knit these panels until I felt like it was a good length to fit around my neck. And then after you sew it together and you have this donut shape, you just kind of go around one of the edges and pick up the stitches to start knitting a regular top-down raglan. I really, really like this idea for construction, and I love big cozy turtlenecks, and I don't really have anything like this, so I might just knit another one. Like I said, it went super fast. I used US size 8s, and then after I knit a few inches of the raglan, I was able to get an idea of what my gauge was, and I realized I was miraculously spot on for the width for my raglan, so I didn't have to do any adjustments really for the increases for the raglan shaping. I did do the sleeves differently. I didn't do regular decreases because I wanted to get this shape at the bottom, these kind of like bubble sleeves. So I just knit a straight tube, and then at the end I just did really rapid decreases in 2 rows. So I only decreased for 2 rows and basically halved the stitch count to get that type of sleeve. Okay, so what are these crazy stripes on the front? This sweater really got away from me. I was super, super excited and just knitting and knitting, knitting. I couldn't stop. And then after I got through this stripe in the middle here, I realized that like all the saturation was just kind of like right through the middle of my torso. And I usually, if I'm gonna have different colors on a sweater, I want more saturated colors near my face, and then to get lighter at, you know, the further parts. And I didn't like how it was light on top and then bright in the middle, and then I didn't really have any other, I didn't want it to be bottom heavy, so I didn't want to do even more saturated colors at the bottom. So I decided to take my newly acquired embroidering skills and put some color near the top. So I just did a simple chain stitch. I used this colorway, which is the Cha-Cha, and the Siren colorway, and I just did some chain stitch stripes starting at the neck. I haven't decided if I want to do more. I thought it would be really cool to do some on the shoulders as well, but I did these before I blocked it, and I figured the sweater would grow a little bit while blocking because I used a lot of superwash yarns in here, held double with the mohair. So I decided to let it be the size it was gonna be and then do the rest of the embroidery if I decided to do that. But I like how it is now, so I don't know if I'm gonna do more. We'll see. I'll put it on for you guys. Okay, so here it is. Isn't this the most cozy turtleneck you've ever seen in your life? Oh my gosh, it's so, so soft. And I am really glad that the baby Suri panels ended up where my ears are, because the Suri is a lot thicker than a regular mohair, and so I feel like if I need to like pull it up close to my ears, it'll stay a little better. So here's what it looks like. Here's the bubble sleeves. Yeah, I love it so much. It's kind of a crazy, impulsive, irrational thing I did, but traveling makes me really exhausted. Every time I get home from traveling, I feel like I need to be by myself and do nothing if possible, just to kind of recharge. So I got home from the trip and I was really excited about this fluffy yarn, and I just kind of cast on without any plan. Oh yeah, and I added a little bit of seed stitch near the end of each sleeve just to kind of pull in the neck too. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Should I add more embroidery to the shoulders? I can't decide. I don't know. I love it. I kind of want to wear this to my birthday dinner thing tonight, but I'm worried about how large this neck is, and I'm clumsy and I'm worried about getting food in it. Yeah, but I don't know. I feel it's like a birthday gift to myself. Like, treated myself to this really, really nice yarn that was really impractical, and yeah. I'm not gonna go through all of the yarns I used for this because I just pulled a lot of stash. The stash I chose, I wanted to work with these colors, and so I have a solid white. I had a light silver and a dark silver mohair. I had a really, really nice, really light taupe color. So a lot of neutrals, and a lot of neutrals that also had little tiny pops of like neon speckles and things like that, so that it wouldn't get too crazy. So I tried to keep it as neutral as possible while also being super fun. So yeah, I highly recommend this pattern. It's really, really simple. If you want something really warm and cozy, this is the pattern to do it. Like, I really want to knit another one. Like, it works so perfectly for all this like marled trend that's going around. I just kind of use the same principles that the marled magic shawl used. I think that one came out last March. Yeah, so that was kind of my birthday knit last March. So I might do this every year for my birthday, just choose like a crazy Stephen West pattern and just kind of run with it and do fun colors and scraps and things. It's kind of a nice change from all the other stuff that I've been doing recently. Yeah, so in the marled magic shawl, there were some sections where he suggested, since you're holding it double the whole time, he suggested just changing one at a time so that it kind of slowly faded in a marled way, I guess, instead of in a stripy way. And I did do that, but since one of the strands was always a mohair, it always seemed like there was one really dominant yarn. And so when I changed, I didn't get this gradual fading effect of a marl. I just kind of got actual stripes, which is fine, but I still kind of went by the same technique by always holding two together but only changing one at a time. Yeah, so that's my Hofsos sweater. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I think it's an Icelandic word, but if you know how to pronounce it, let me know. Now I've got my more modest, rational turtleneck back on. Okay, so that's all for finished objects this week. It's been a crazy week. I cast on the Hofsos on the Tuesday night after I got back from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I finished it on Saturday night. So that was really, really fast. Luckily, I only had one work day that week, so I had a lot of extra time at home, which was amazing to finish it. So that's not totally normal, but it was great. Got a lot of knitting done. It's funny though, because I started it and I was thinking, I think I can squeeze in one more sweater before I turn 30. And then I finished it like immediately. And so then the next day was our brunch party, and I was like, I think I can squeeze in this pair of socks before I turn 30. And then I finished the socks the next day. And so then I was like, I wonder if I can squeeze in another project before I turn 30. And so I decided to start some mittens. So now we are in works in progress territory, and I have 3 to share with you. So the last knit of my 20s is this mitten. And this is from the Waveform Mittens pattern by Becky Sorensen. She is Soprano Knits on Instagram, and she has the Stringing It Together podcast. So she is a knitwear designer, and she designed these really, really cute, simple mittens, which look gorgeous in a natural kind of rustic yarn. I thought I might be able to squeeze in the full pair before I turned 30, but I did not. But I finished one of them. So I finished this last night. The yarn I'm using, I actually bought when Becky and I went to a Christmas market this Christmas. I'm trying to think where I put the yarn so I can show it to you. So here it is balled up. And this is, I think, only half of the skein. It's a 100-gram skein. And it is from a local sheep farm called Shaf Rupert. Here's the label. So they had a booth at the Christmas market that we went to, and they sold all types of sheep stuff. There was yarn, there was wool roving, there was little slippers and sheepskin hats and blankets and pillowcases and like basically anything you can do with a sheep. I know that they also sell food products like milk and meat, and I think they just kind of do everything you can with a sheep. So it was a really big booth. They had a lot of stuff, and their yarn was really, really affordable, and it's beautiful and rustic. And I know rustic usually translates to scratchy. This is not the softest wool I've ever felt in my life, but I would not describe it as scratchy. So whatever that means to you. It's more of a sport weight, and the pattern called for DK, but I didn't really have a DK yarn I wanted to use for mittens right now. So I just decided to use this also because I bought it when I was with Becky, and Becky designed the mittens, so they're a little more special. And I would say this is a good pattern if you've never knit mittens before. It's really easy to understand, and she has helpful YouTube links to tutorials if you're not sure how to do what she's talking about. And the cool thing about this pattern is there are little buttonholes for your fingers if you want to use your touchscreen phone. I'm excited about that. I think I'm only gonna put these on the right hand mitten. I don't think I need to do it on both. So yeah, anyway, I was saying this is a sport weight yarn and it's a DK pattern, but I have really small hands, and usually things like this are gonna be too big for me anyway. So I just went ahead and I started it. And I knew that the cuff, it was really hard to tell how it was gonna fit because you use a smaller needle size for the cuff. And so I didn't want to knit the whole cuff and then have to like do too many frogging sessions to figure out the right fit. So I just skipped the cuff and I started with the larger needle at the main part of the hand. And I just knit that to fit because that was the most important part to me. And then I just went back afterwards and added the cuff. So I did use smaller needles than the pattern called for, but I started with the same stitch count, and I think I ended up only I increased 4 stitches. So there is like a chart for the front and a chart for the back, and so I needed 4 extra stitches all the way around to fit my hand perfectly. So I just added, for the front chart, I added 1 stitch on each side, and for the back chart, I added 1 stitch on each side. So there's really just 2 extra stitches on like the very edges. Yeah, I don't know, it was really, really easy to adjust. The only thing, I think if I knit these again, I would put the thumb more on this side. Because right now it's perfectly centered between the front and the back. But for me, I don't know if this is normal, but for me, it kind of pulls the mitten, it slightly turns it. I don't know if that makes sense, but like since my thumb wants to go forward, it kind of pulls this whole thing around a little bit, so it's not perfectly centered. And that's just me being like really particular. And it's really only a couple stitches difference. Like I think I would just put the thumb hole shaping like 2 or 3 stitches more towards this side of the mitten. I haven't done very many mittens. I did do some fingerless mitts before, and those ones did have the thumb hole more on the like palm side of the mitt, and they fit pretty well, so I might just use that template for my hand next time. But they were a super fast mitten. I did this one just in a day, and I wasn't knitting all day, I just kind of came back to it every now and then. So it went pretty fast, and I think it would go even faster if you knit it with a suggested DK yarn. I kept almost everything the same, except I just had to add like several more rows of length, and that's about it. And then I went back with the smaller needle and knit some garter rounds for the cuff. Thanks, Becky, for the awesome mitten pattern. So I really wanted to knit some mittens because when I was in Edinburgh, my hands were freezing. It was so cold there and so blustery, and just like, I was so mad at myself that I've never made mittens for myself because my hands were really, really cold. And so I figured Iceland's also gonna be really, really cold, and I really wanted to have some before I get there. So now I have one mitten at least. If I don't finish the other one before I go, we're leaving on Friday or Saturday. We're leaving on Saturday, so if I manage somehow not to finish the other one, at least I'll have one warm hand and the other one can stay in my pocket. Okay, so the next work in progress I want to show you is my Zweig. I cast this on also when I got home from Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I think I cast this on like the day before. No, I cast this on the same day that I started my Hofsos. I just was really into the Hofsos, and so I didn't really come back to it. Except I did make it into the lace section. I did get a little bit into the lace part, which was kind of nice because the Hofsos was pretty much just straight stockinette, and I got kind of tired of it, and so I would take a break from that and come knit a few rows of lace, and it was nice. So this is a Zweig by Caitlin Hunter. I think most people know what it is. I'm sorry, I have to be really careful because I just have these circular pieces like with nothing on the end, so I need to be careful I don't make the sweater fall off. Okay, so I'm using Madeline Tosh Twist Light for the yarn, and the colorways I'm using are Whiskey Barrel, which is this dark brown with some blue in there. It's so pretty. I love it. And the lace color is the colorway Marfa. So I've had this yarn set aside for quite a long time to knit this sweater. I've had the Marfa yarn the longest. So my husband and I actually got married in Marfa, Texas, which is a teeny tiny town in West Texas. The closest airport is a 3-hour drive, so it's way out there. It's in the high desert. It's so beautiful, and for whatever reason, this little city has become like an artist hub. Like there's tons of sculpture and art and just amazing stuff out there. So if you've never heard of Marfa, just go check it out. It's a really, really special place. And so when Madeline Tosh made yarn called Marfa, I had to buy it. And so I just kind of set it aside. I wanted it to be in something really, really special, and I wanted it to be kind of the feature. And so then when this Zweig came out, I thought it would be the perfect yarn for the lace. So then I just had to go out and find a main color. And I found this Whiskey Barrel color. I ordered it on yarn.com, which is the web's online shop, which is also awesome. If you guys have never shopped there online, they offer a discount if you spend over a certain amount. So ordering a sweater's quantity from them, you pretty much always get a discount, which is awesome. Just a little tip. Yeah, so that's about as far as I've gotten. It's not much to show, but I did want to show it. So yeah, a lot of knitting this past week or so. Here's what the yarn looks like. And I think the blue and the brown is just so unique and pretty. And this yarn is mostly warm colors with the orange and red and brown, but there is a teeny, teeny, tiny bit of blue and purple in there. So I think that it's gonna come out a little better that this brown has some blue in it. So I don't know. I didn't intend for that because I couldn't really tell online that there was actually blue in the Whiskey Barrel, but it just kind of worked out perfectly. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one for spring. I have one more work in progress to show you. And this was my travel knitting for EYF. I showed it on the last Wool Booty video because I wanted to show that I was using some of this Cascade mohair. But I'm knitting the Ambient, and the designer is Airy. It's just E-R-I. So this is the yoke, and if you guys saw me knitting this, if you happen to have seen me knitting this at EYF, I had already split for the sleeves and was working on the body, like up near the armholes, and it was way too big. I can't complain though, because I did not do a gauge swatch, but after I got to the stockinette section, because this is like a woven stitch, it's a lot harder to measure your gauge in that kind of stitch pattern. So I decided to wait till I got to the stockinette section, and I figured out with like my gauge and the number of stitches I had, I was gonna have 16 inches of positive ease. Which is ridiculous. Like, love me an oversized sweater, but that was just like way too much for what this was. So what I did was I frogged back to the second to last increase in the yoke. Because I figured out, I counted the stitches, or I went back and I looked in the pattern at how many stitches I was supposed to have at the second to last increase, and that stitch count seemed like a good amount for the amount of stitches I needed to get the measurement that I want, if that makes any sense. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me, like, when I talk about sweater math, like, what does that even mean and how do I do it? I don't want to get into like exact specific details because it would take a while, I think, for me to figure out exactly like how to talk about it in a way that's not confusing. So since I've had a request to explain it a lot, what I'm gonna try to do is have a separate video at some point where I talk about sweater math, I guess. Like a lot of the like math that I end up doing in the sweaters for the adjustments that I like to make usually. So yeah, if you're like, if you're wondering like how I do any of that stuff, I promise I will try to do that some point soon. Yeah, so not much to show on this because I frogged so much of it, and I kind of lost steam on it. I'm not super interested in it right now because, you know, it's like when you knit so far and then you have to get rid of it, and it's just like, ugh, I don't want to do it again. But the yarn I'm using for the main color is BC yarn. It's called BioBalance, and it is a 55% wool, 45% cotton blend. I've never used a cotton wool blend before, and I really like it. I thought it would be really good for spring and summer. And then the mohair I'm using, I'm just holding it double for the yoke, and that's just a Cascade. I'm sorry, I don't have the skeins with me to show you, but it's just a Cascade mohair silk blend. I don't remember the name of the base, but I also got that mohair in the swap with Tristan that I did. Okay, that is it for all my knitting projects. That was a lot. I was not expecting to have that much to show you guys so soon after traveling, but I don't know, what can I say? I like to knit. So I guess we'll get into fluff stuff now. So for today, I will talk a little bit about the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I am gonna be showing some of the stuff that I brought home because I feel like kind of the point of those things, besides getting to meet up with lots of awesome people, is to bring home some yarn and see what these places have to offer. So I am gonna be sharing some purchases, which normally I save for the Wool Booty videos because I know not everybody just likes to, you know, hear just a whole list of shopping that I've done, but I am gonna show it here because I also did the live stream from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which if you search my channel, you will find it pretty easily. So I did a live stream with my friend Shara, who was my travel buddy, and we shared what we bought. There was one day after we filmed the live stream, so I did get a couple of things the next day that you guys haven't seen. Also, the lighting was terrible when we did that because the sun was setting, so it was getting really dark, and so I couldn't share all the amazing colors of the stuff that I got. So I'm just gonna show it briefly here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And then I will not be sharing my EYF haul in a Wool Booty video. And also, one thing I will not be doing is just like listing every single person that I met there because it's too many. There was too many people. It was really, really exciting to go to the podcaster lounge and just like look out at the sea of people and see, like, it's like every other person was somebody that I've seen on the internet before or on Instagram or like somewhere. So it was just incredible. Most people that were there, I did either meet or just talk to very briefly. So I think it would, I don't know, I won't even be able to remember everybody if I tried. So that's one thing I won't be doing, but I will be, like I said, I will be sharing all my videos and photos at the end in a little slideshow. Okay, so first off, I want to share the things that I picked up the day after we did the live stream. It was the last day. It was the Sunday of EYF, and this was the Meet the Shepherd / Shepherdess day. So most of the main booths were like packed away and shut off. The whole main room was shut off, and it was just, it was like 12 or 14 vendors that day. And a lot of them were not there for the main part of the weekend, and so a lot of them were new and some of them were the same, but the idea was that all these places were, all these booths were like family owned or sheep to show kind of thing. So it was really, really cool to hear these people talk about their farms and their sheep and the story of how they made their yarn. So the first thing I bought there was this yarn from Prado de Lana. And I feel silly because this is actually based in the States, but I just really, really like this yarn. It's like the squishiest skein of yarn I have. So this is a 2-ply DK, and it is 100% Rommeldale wool. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I've never heard of this breed before. And if you want to check out more about this farm, you can go to pradodelana.com. But it is just this gorgeous cream color, and I love a good bouncy 2-ply yarn. It's some of my favorite. I love the texture of it, and it is really, really, really soft. And it actually reminds me a lot of, okay, Ben just walked in and I had to turn off the camera for a second. And then I go and look in the mirror and there was mascara like all underneath my eyes, so I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so I was talking about this yarn, and I picked it up because it reminded me of this yarn that I got in Rhinebeck, and that yarn is really, really similar in texture and softness, and it's a little bit more of a brown color. But I only had 3 skeins of that, and I had trouble kind of coming up with like, what the heck am I gonna do with only 3 skeins? And I thought maybe I could just put this with it to do like a color work type of thing. So yeah, I just like wasn't really sure what I was gonna do with that, and then I saw this and I felt it and I knew immediately that I wanted to go with those other skeins. So that's kind of why I picked that one up. The other one I got that day is from Croft 29. And it looks, I mean, it's so dark. It is the most gorgeous black brown I have ever seen. It's so, so pretty. It's pretty toothy, but still soft. And I think that this is kind of a DK, but they only make this one product. So it is only this exact yarn that they sell, and they have about 50 sheep, I think, and they only take the wool from the babies, which is why it's nice and soft. So this is 100 grams and 204 yards. So that seems about right for a DK. Yep, but it is a Scottish yarn, and it was really, really nice to just talk to the people who were selling it, and they were so nice. And this is a 100-gram ball, and so they had some samples knit up in this yarn, and there was just the nicest pair of house socks knit from this. They were just really thick and they looked so warm and nice. And so she said that they made that pair of socks out of like 150 grams or something like that. And I have small feet, so I'm hoping I can get a pair. If I decide to make socks with this, I'm hoping I can get a whole pair out of it. But it just seemed really special and really different because I've never seen yarn this dark that was totally natural. It just seemed really, really special and different than all the other stuff I was seeing that day. Oh, also, and I will insert a picture here of the wool. They had just taken off the sheep and they just kind of like put it on the table so you could see where the yarn it came from, and it was just so beautiful. So I definitely wanted to get a picture of that. So yeah, definitely check out Croft 29 and Prado de Lana. And then I also went shopping at EYF knowing that I wanted to get a sweater's quantity of Scottish yarn, something that I couldn't just find anywhere. And we found the Uist Wool booth. Yep, so they are based in Scotland, and they had so many beautiful yarns there. But I went thinking I kind of wanted to find a sport weight because I want to make the Bright sweater by Junko Okamoto. And I found the perfect yarn for it. I think it's gonna be so beautiful. It kind of has a thick and thin texture, and it's like, has these little neps in it that give it lots of texture, but it's really lightweight. And yeah, it's just so special. And it smells so good. And I think it's a really beautiful color too. Yeah, so I don't know when I'm gonna knit that, but the sweater is actually a one size pattern, and it does take a lot of yardage, and I couldn't quite afford just that extra skein, and I would have had to buy 9 skeins of this. So I just decided to get 8 and modify the pattern slightly to be either shorter or smaller somehow, because it's a one size thing, so it's pretty oversized. So I figure I'll just modify it enough that I can get it, I can squeeze it out of 8 skeins. Okay, and then I picked up these skeins. Like I said, I've already showed these on the live stream, but it was hard to tell the colors, but I just think this is so incredible, this green yarn. So this is from Celtic Colors. I picked this up at the Isolde shop, and I say shop because it was not just a booth. It was like its own, it was like 2 rooms basically. There was tons of stuff there, and I've never seen anything like this. It's a single ply, and I think it's like a fingering weight, but it looks like moss. Like, it just looks like straight up moss. It didn't look like yarn. And Ben really likes moss for some reason, so I just had to get it. Yeah, I just thought he would like it, and I thought it needed a friend, so I got the gray. So I might do some color work or something. The colorways are funny because they're just like really, really matter of fact. This one is called Yellow on Dark Gray. So I guess it's like a dark gray base, and then the yellow just makes it look like green. And these are definitely pretty scratchy, I'd have to say, but I just thought they looked super cool, and I've never seen anything like it, and so I just got them. Okay, so the thing I'm most excited to show you guys, just because on the live stream you couldn't see these colors at all because it was so dark, but I'm really, really excited about this. Total impulse buy. I had kind of finished my shopping already at EYF, and then I went to the Stephen and Penelope booth, and I had actually kind of stopped by that booth several times already, but I hadn't bought anything. And then I just went back to look one more time, and this caught my eye. This is Ushitita, and the colorway is Love is a Battlefield. So this is a single ply fingering weight, and it's amazing. It just caught my eye. I actually like didn't even want to buy much hand dyed. I just have so much of it already, and it was just kind of the last thing I needed. But I don't know, I just like really, really wanted this. I don't buy red a lot, I don't wear red, I don't gravitate towards red a lot, but this one just seemed really special to me. So then I decided to look for a few things that would go with it, just because that makes it a lot more fun. Because I kind of don't want to be buying lots of single skeins anymore. I want to be buying enough for a full project if I can, or just already know that it could go with something I have at home. I picked up this turquoise skein. This is the colorway Bouquet. I just thought those would be so pretty together. I love red and turquoise. I think that it's just a really, really pretty deserty combination. So I had these, and then I thought, what can I do with these? So then I was thinking desert, and then I remembered that at home I had this skein of hedgehog fibers, and this was from a club a while back, and so I only have one and I cannot find another one. Nobody will sell me theirs, but I love this colorway so much. It's called Sahara. So I was hoping I could convince people to sell me theirs so I could make a sweater out of it, because I only need 3 or 4 to make a sweater. But I can't find anybody willing to get rid of theirs. So I just kind of have had it sitting for a while, and I've been trying to think of something special I could use it for, because I don't know, I just thought it was so beautiful. And then I saw this at Stephen and Penelope, and they are so darn close. So then I was thinking if I did a color work something or another with these two kind of striped as a main color and these two as color work, I might need one more as a main color, because I think it's safe to have 3 as the main color. And so I actually got this one, which is slightly different. It's called Mochaccino. I only have 2 hands. So I figure I could either fade these or stripe them somehow as a main color, and then do this super awesome kind of desert inspired sweater with color work. I'm really, really excited. I think it's gonna be so pretty. And I don't know, it just like worked so perfectly. Like there's little bits of turquoise in the Sahara colorway. Oh no, yeah. Oh, that's Ushitita, and this one's Braveheart, I forgot to mention. So yeah, there's a little tiny bit of turquoise and yellow, and I don't know, everything just kind of pulled together so nicely. So I think these would work perfectly for the jelly roll sweater. If not, I am not gonna have any trouble coming up with a stranded color work fingering weight pattern. And then I thought, so these are kind of my main colors. I thought if I needed another one, there are these kind of bits of fuchsia in there. So if I needed a little bit of a pop, I can throw this in there too. This would be perfect. So this is also from my stash, and this is a hedgehog club color, and this is the colorway Amulet. So I don't think I'd want a whole lot in there, but maybe just like a little bit of a pop of purple to kind of pull out the fuchsia and these other colors. Yeah, really excited about this. I don't know when that will be. I have a lot of sweaters on my list. So for now, I'm just keeping all of those skeins in this La Bien-Aimée drawstring bag. I also picked up at EYF because I have a couple of their tote bags, but I wanted the drawstring bag. So there they go, they're in there. So if you're curious how big these are, if you ever want to get one, I've got, I think 6 skeins in here right now. Okay, that's it for EYF haul. Yeah, so just a little bit more about the festival. I got there on Friday with my friend Shara, and when we took the train from Glasgow to Edinburgh, we met an awesome knitter. Her name's Ella. And so Ella, if you're watching, hi. It was so nice to see her on the train, and she just introduced herself and sat down, and we all knit together for a little bit. And yeah, she was super cool. She was like really hip to all the all the podcasting and stuff like that. Like she knows a lot of podcasters that she was telling us about. Yeah, and she was super sweet, and she even paid for our bus tickets because we didn't have any coins yet. So thank you so much, Ella. That was really, really sweet. We did not have tickets for the Friday, so we had to stand in line, which wasn't that long of a line, but it was really cold outside, like I mentioned. So luckily we got in without too much of a wait. And we still had all of our bags and everything from the airport, so we put them in the coat check. I tried to do a round first before I bought anything, but like I said, it was really hard. The Qing fiber, I just kind of bought immediately. But other than that, I did kind of get a good look at everything else first before I started buying stuff, because that was all I bought on the Friday. So Saturday, I went back and I just kind of went nuts and bought all this other stuff. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, at the Stephen and Penelope booth, if you spent a certain amount, you would be able to get one of these bags for free, which I love. I think it's so funny. And it is huge. It's a really big bag. I can fit a ton of yarn in here. So, yay bag. It was just really, really fun. I loved going to the podcaster lounge because it was really, really big, and it just seemed like the place to be. Like, everybody was just hanging out in there, having a good time knitting and showing off what they bought. And that's where I got to meet most of the awesome people that I met. It was so good to see friends that I've met before and make some new ones and hear everybody's amazing stories about their projects and like what they were shopping for and what their plans for their knitting were. It was just a really amazing time, even though it was slightly overwhelming. I think everybody says that about these things. It's always overwhelming, but it's always worth it too. My friend Shara and I, we flew in and out of Glasgow because the flights were so much cheaper, and the train is not that long. It was a really short train trip to Edinburgh. So on Sunday, after we went to the Meet the Shepherd and Shepherdess thing, we just hopped on the train to Glasgow, and so we had the whole day there because our flight was super early on Monday morning. We wanted to spend the night in Glasgow, and it was really, really cold that day. We thought we might do some sightseeing, but it was just so cold and the weather was not great. So we went and had afternoon tea, and the place we went to turned into a gin bar after 5 p.m. So we were there for 5 hours. We ate a lot of food, and then we just started having cocktails with our tea, and then we just kept having gin cocktails. It was an amazing place. I will link to this place in the description below. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's Gin 78, but there's also a gin spa in there. It's definitely worth checking out if you're in Glasgow. It was awesome. I mean, there were gin cocktails served in teapots. It was good. So we sat in there and knit for a long time and just kind of had a really relaxing day after tons and tons of yarn shopping over the weekend. And our waiter like did not believe us that we were in Scotland to go to a knitting festival. He was like, that's not a real thing. Like, why are you really here? It was pretty funny. I mean, the weekend went by really, really fast. Got home, had a day of rest, and then I cast it on, and I never stopped knitting until I started filming this episode. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I did work a little bit. I did go to a little bit of dance class, but I also needed a break from dance because my legs hurt really bad after that last performance. For anybody new stopping by, I do ballet also just for fun, and we did Cinderella, and that was like the day before I got ready to go to Edinburgh. So I don't know, last week was just like a whole whirlwind of a thing. And so yeah, all that knitting time when I got home was very much needed. So just for the end of the episode, before I show you all my EYF footage, which I don't think is actually very much, but I'll show you what I've got, I want to share a couple birthday presents. Because it is my birthday. My awesome friend Michelle, who is also a knitter, got me a really super amazing present. And before I show you the present, I have to show you the wrapping paper she found. So it has llamas or alpacas or whatever they are, and cactuses, and like they're wearing these blankets, but then the cactuses also have like stranded color work on them. It's amazing. So I was like, I don't even need to open this present because I just love this wrapping paper, and I loved it so much that I just like folded it nicely and kept it. So yeah, I need to get myself a roll of that wrapping paper. But then I opened the present, and then this is what she got me. This is a project bag with cactuses and alpacas wearing blankets. It's amazing. It's so good. I think she found this on Etsy, but it's from April 9 Designs. I haven't checked out the shop, but I'm just assuming that it's full of amazing project bags. And it also comes with this incredible little progress keeper with a llama on it. So cute. I have trouble telling alpacas and llamas apart. Actually, these look like alpacas, because I think alpacas have the fluffy hairdo. I don't remember. Don't remember. But yeah, I think it's got some kind of batting or something in the sides, so it feels sturdy but lightweight at the same time. And then on the inside it has two halves that are separated by more amazing fabric, which is its own pocket. So it's kind of a divider and a pocket at the same time, and I'm really excited to use this. And I was telling my friend Shara, who came to EYF with me, that I wanted to find an awesome project bag that would fit a sweater, because most of my project bags are like sock size or shawl size. It's really nice to have a good size bag that I can definitely fit a sweater in, and I love me a good pocket. I mean, who doesn't love this fabric? It's amazing. Thank you, Michelle. And then I also wanted to show, because the only other I did get other amazing gifts from my friends who were super sweet. I'm not gonna show everything, but I am gonna show what Ben got me. Ben got me this amazing cashmere from Jade Sapphire, and occasionally I will daydream out loud about wishing I could have 100% cashmere sweater. But the cost is a real thing, and cashmere is expensive. So I settled for like merino cashmere blends and things like that, which are also really nice. But I just thought one day I'm gonna treat myself and have 100% cashmere sweater. And I was like, maybe when I'm like 50, I'll be able to do that. But he was so nice, and he got me a sweater's quantity of this. So this is the 2-ply Mongolian cashmere, and it's 55 grams and 400 yards. So it is technically a lace, but I think that I could get away with doing like a fingering weight pattern. Since it's lighter than fingering, it would just drape a little differently, which I'm fine with, or just be a little bit more see-through, which I'm also fine with, because I think it's just gonna be a really unique, special thing, whatever I make out of it. And it is just so scrumptious. I love it. I'm so excited. I don't know if this is the natural color or if it was treated to be this white. I am not sure. It doesn't say on the label. But it says each hand-dyed skein is unique, alternating skeins recommended, blah, blah, blah. So maybe it has been treated in some way to be white. I'll have to get online and look. Yeah, but I think that this is a little bit thicker than typical lace weight. It's thicker than some of the lace weight that I have that's wool and silk. It's just a little bit fluffier. So I think I might even have enough yardage to hold it double and do like a DK weight pattern. I'm not gonna decide right away because I wanna have a good think about it because this stuff is not cheap and I want to choose something really special to knit with it. So that is my birthday stuff. So I think that's all I have for today. I have to run. Ben just got home and I don't like to film while he's here because I'm really self-conscious. And so he's locked away in his room with his noise canceling headphones on, working on some music. So I'm going to release him so that we can hang out a little bit and get ready and go to dinner later. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to my patrons on Patreon. It means so much to me that you guys want to help contribute to the podcast. And I also want to give a huge thanks to everybody coming back to watch the podcast and anybody brand new who has made it to the end. Thanks for giving me a chance. So I will see you guys next time. I hope you enjoy some of the photos and video from Edinburgh.